move, I make them proud. Haters talk, they love my style. Champions, we stand out loud. Records break when I appear. Work been tough for all these years. Now the crown is close, it's clear. Winning season, persevere. Push even harder. Aim only higher. Steps turn to gold. Rise through the fire. All eyes on me when I run. Stacking wins, I'm never done. On the field, I'm number one. Pressure heavy, weigh a ton.
Okay, yes, people. Welcome to the Man United stream. Hope you're doing well. It is Monday morning. What weekend we've had, and we've got breaking news coming our way. We were just discussing this just last night, the show in last night, where we were just having a look at the Premier League results and what had gone on. We were discussing how United need to go out there and sign a midfielder, but not just sign a midfielder, but we were talking about how they need to have option A, B, C, D, E, whatever, because they can't just rely on going after their number one choice, because in January that's not guaranteed. So we might have to have options available that we can turn to if our key targets are not available in January and we can't sign them up. And well, we got breaking news today about Joao Gomes from Wolverhampton, who's on United's radar. There's already discussions behind closed doors with Wolverhampton and Joao Gomes, and we've heard that Joao Gomes is very much interested in joining Man United. So these are positive talks, already positive moves being made by United for a new midfielder. We said it in last night's show. Look, dream signings would be, of course, Carlos Bleber, Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson. But we also know that they're going to be quite difficult to get. In fact, almost impossible in the January transfer window. And I went through exactly why each one of these would be difficult to sign in the January transfer window. Carlos Bleber, we know Brighton are very difficult when it comes to negotiating. So they're not a club that you can just turn up to and quickly get a deal done. It takes weeks, if not months, to get over all the discussions and negotiations about how the payments are going to be made, what the valuation is, and things like that. So it's not going to be easy. So we don't want to turn up in the January transfer window and just waste all our time negotiating for Carlos Bleber. And that's why United have to have backup options. Same thing with Adam Wharton. He does want to join Man United. That's what we're hearing from several sources that are saying that Adam Wharton is interested in moving away and joining Man United. However, again, we've got that huge problem that Crystal Palace are not in a position to let go of their players right now. They are very light in squad, and they need also to carry on doing what they're doing in the Premier League. They're not just going to hand their best player or one of their best players over to us and say, yeah, you take him, but we're fine. We'll just struggle along in the Premier League. We don't want to achieve, Champions League football or European football. Of course they do. They've got a chance. They're in with a chance. They're actually playing really well. And that's why they're probably not going to want to sell Adam Wharton. And the same applies to Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest will not want to let go of Elliot Anderson. This is exactly what we were discussing yesterday. And I was saying, look, United will be looking at other options. They will have to look for other players. And exactly this has happened this morning, where we've got news, confirmation that United are looking at Joao Gomes. Now, it's a bit of a surprise move. I wasn't expecting him to be on that short list. I'll be honest with you. I was looking at other players that I'd put ahead of him, and I was thinking, right, okay, but this again points to how United are moving when it comes to new transfers, new transfer targets, which is they're looking for Premier League proven players. And if you think back to what we heard from Wilcox just about it was last week, wasn't it? Thursday or Friday, where he came out with the interview, and we did a whole show on his interview, went into deep into what he said, what he was talking about, and he said something really important, and we all as United fans should have heard that, which was, he said something like, we need players that we can just plug and play. We need players like Mbeumo and Kuna who can just plug and play. What he means by that is that there is no risk in signing a player who's already playing in the Premier League and is doing well. We can just simply buy him in 1 week, and next week they could start for our team. There is no, getting used to the Premier League. There's no getting up to speed. It's simply bringing them and putting them into our team and slotting them in. That's all it takes. And that's what Wilcox, that's what Omar Brada are after. They know that to get this kind of success that we've already got, let's be honest, we have done well so far. And the only reason why we've done well so far in this season, there might be some of you saying, no, look, we're nowhere near our best. But from what we were last season, we've improved. And it's obvious why we've improved, because we've brought in signings that have come in and hit the ground running. They've come in and started working for us immediately. That's what's different. And anyone who's saying any other thing is just absolute talking rubbish. This is exactly what's happened. We've brought in players in Mbeumo who's scoring goal after goal for us. Why? That's because he's already used to the Premier League. He doesn't need to get up to speed. He doesn't need to understand the teams that he's playing against and the defenses that he's playing against. He knows exactly how to play against the like of Spurs and their defense. He is used to their defense. He knows. He's played with Brentford. He knows exactly how to get goals past these defenses. So there's no getting up to speed. He's fully aware of each player that's marking him. And that's why Joao Gomes makes sense. And the other reason why it makes sense is because arguably it's probably an easier target to go and get. Right now, Wolves are completely in a total shambles. They are getting a new manager joining them. I think over the international break, they've got the Middlesbrough manager joining them, who's a boyhood Wolves fan or something. So he's going to be there, but they still need to settle the ship. And there are possibilities of going and getting him. Joao Gomes also will be a lot cheaper than the other names that we've mentioned already. Yes, the dream signings would be someone like Wharton or Baleba or Anderson. Them without a doubt. And for me, as a United fan, yes, I'd love for United to go and get these signings done in the January window. But I also have to be reasonable, and you've got to understand that this is not, you're not playing a game here. It's not EAFC or your career mode or manager or something. This is different. This is real life. You can't go in and just pick and choose whichever player you want and you're just going to get them. We've got to factor in several things. Number one, of course, the clubs themselves who we're buying from. They might not want to sell. In fact, most clubs will not want to sell their players in January. There's a reason why they didn't sell him in the summer transfer window, because they want to keep him at the club, or else they would have sold him in the summer. But they didn't do that. That's because they want to keep this squad as it is, and they have planned for the whole season to go with these players. There's never really, unless you have got them already on the transfer list out and they don't sell. Like for instance, Malacia. Now for us, Malacia, we know we've tried to sell him in the summer. It didn't work, and he's still at the club. But if an offer comes in now in January for Malacia, we'll sell him. It would be quite an obvious thing to do. But if an offer comes in for a player that we don't want to sell, say for instance, I don't know, Casemiro for instance, or someone else on our team, De Ligt, or if an offer comes in for them kind of players, we won't sell them. No way would we sell them, because we've got a plan for these guys. We've got a plan for the entire season. In fact, you could even argue Kobe Mainoo and Zertsky are still a part of the squad, and probably United have got plans for them to stay. But of course, if the players put in a transfer request, that means a completely different thing. But number one, the clubs selling to us might not want to sell the players that they've got. The other massive issue that we have to accept is that there's other clubs, again, looking for the same players. There'll be other clubs looking at the likes of Baleba, looking at the likes of Wharton and Anderson. We're not going to be the only ones. And I said this again, I've said it a couple of times now in a couple of shows. I've said, look, we're not the only ones interested. Elliot Anderson, we're not the only ones. Carlos Baleba, there's other clubs circling around him. Liverpool, City, they're all in need of these young, talented players to join them. And also Adam Wharton as well. the likes of Liverpool, likes of Arsenal, they're all looking at these players knowing full well that, look, these guys are going to be potentially very good in the future. Do we let them, United, come in and just sign them, or do we try and make a bid and try and bring them to their clubs? That's exactly what every club is doing. Yes, we might not hear of it. We might be talking about United only and only United going in for Carlos Baleba, but we have heard that Carlos Baleba's representatives have also visited Anfield. They've been given the grand tour. They've been given the whole pitch, about the future of Liverpool and what's going on. And he might be swayed. We've got to remember, we've got no Champions League football to offer right now. So if the likes of Anderson and Adam Wharton and things like that, them kind of players might be looking for Champions League football. So we've got to be realistic as what targets we're going to hit. And if United, the board know, look, we might not be able to get these guys in the January window, so we need options away from these key targets. Joao Gomes makes absolute sense for me. He is a decent player in a troubled team right now, a team that's not doing well, but he's still performing. He's consistently, if you look at his stats, he's still doing well. Yeah, he's not amazing. He's not got the best stats in the Premier League, but can he come in and do a job for us? Absolutely he can. Brazilian, he's broken into the international team again, and Ancelotti's brought him back in again. So these are positives. He's going in the right direction in his career. He's young. He's about 24, I think, 25. So he's got lots of football in him, and we need someone desperately, because we cannot start playing Casemiro. We can't keep. Obviously, we're not playing Casemiro the full game, which is crazy. We can't use Casemiro for the entirety of the game. He always gets brought off around the 60-minute mark. And that's Ruben Amorim just managing him, trying to get the best out of Casemiro, but also, making sure he's not going to get tired, not going to get injured, and maybe not going to get sent off in any way. So he takes him off around that mark. We all know when Casemiro gets tired, what he does is he starts fouling. If you watch his games, that's what he does. The moment you see Casemiro foul, you know he's tired. He's tired. He just lunges out because he knows he can't get to the man. That's what happens. And we need a like-for-like replacement. We need somebody else to come in who can take up that spot when Casemiro's not playing. Hence why Joao Gomes makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Again, Premier League proven. Someone who's been in the Premier League playing, and he's been coping with it pretty well. We also mentioned Paqueta from West Ham, but I think, again, that's a difficult target to get. He would be another ideal player, but he's more of an offensive player rather than someone who sits there like Casemiro. We need someone who can sit and control everything deep in his own half. Someone like Joao Gomes might be able to do that job. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this link with Joao Gomes. What would you feel if we went and signed someone like Joao Gomes? Would you be happy, or do you think it's just a part-time kind of player that we're going to bring in, not someone who's going to play long-term for United, someone who's maybe not going to be our number one choice either? Do you want to spend all that money on someone like Joao Gomes, or do you feel United should wait and sign one of their key targets? Now, this is the biggest problem we've got at United. I don't think the United board or the owners, Ineos, were expecting United to be in the position that they're in right now. And I'm being honest here. I'm being honest. I feel that this has exceeded their expectations. We've heard from Jim Ratcliffe, we've heard from others, and they were like, look, we finished 15th and we want to see some kind of progression. And I believe that if they were looking at something like, top 10, if we can get into top 10, top 8, we're going to be happy. Now, even as fans, when we first set out in this season, that's what we were talking about. We were saying, look, top 8, if we get into the top 8, top 7, or whatever, we'll be happy. Or at least we'll be satisfied that we're going in the right direction. However, our expectations have shifted from the opening game of the season. Right now, our expectations are we should be in the top 4. And that's just simply because because of how we've been playing and where we're sitting right now in the Premier League table and the teams around us. So our expectations as United fans have changed since the start of the season, and that's all good. I enjoy that. I'm happy with that because, yeah, it shows that United have done well this season. So far, they've been playing pretty well. And now the board have got a conundrum because they can see that if they add one or two top players to this squad, we could quite easily achieve Champions League football. And that's the main crux of everything right now in the January transfer window. The discussions being had are, okay, if we invest maybe and buy maybe one or two top players that can come in and immediately start for United from the Premier League, will this increase our chances of getting the Champions League? Absolutely it would. Absolutely. I mean, if I was on the board, I'd be shouting and screaming saying we need to go and bring in some other players, some backup players, Premier League proven players, and we can achieve Champions League football. Because look what we're doing right now with arguably a squad that's not good enough. It's not fit for purpose. We've saw that against the Spurs this weekend. As soon as we take off Casemiro, as soon as we make a few other substitutions around the pitch, we look like half the team. Casemiro, I think it's something stupid. Like, I think we've conceded 4 goals for 5 goals whilst he's been on the pitch, and something like 20-something goals when he's been off the pitch. That's how much work he does defensively for United. Or he gives us something. He gives us some kind of structure to this formation or whatever it is. He just works for us. It works. I mean, he's offering something that no other player is right now for us, and that's shocking. I mean, if you asked me start of the season about Casemiro, I would have been absolutely negative about him, saying, look, you know, I don't really want Casemiro in there. I want somebody else in there. I want another midfield player. I would have picked maybe even Manu ahead of Casemiro. But this season, he's turned up and he is ready to prove his point. I think it's got a lot to do with him already now being picked for the Brazilian squad. I think he's the captain. Ancelotti clearly believes in him, and that's increased his confidence. And it's got him working harder. You saw over the pre-season, he came back looking lean, he came back looking fit, and he came back like a new player. And the season before, do you remember what he came back like? I mean, he looked like he ate all the pies. He was just overweight, looked like he just didn't care, looked like he was just going to see out his career. But he's transformed everything. So that's positive. But can we rely on Casemiro throughout the season? I don't think so. There's going to be a time we're going to start playing 2 games per week. We already playing 1 game a week. We look shattered. We do not look like a fit team. We look like the lesser team in fitness wise compared to Spurs, who played during the week in the in the European games in the Champions League. So against Copenhagen. And they won 3-0. So you could argue they should be the team that's tired, but we look more tired than they did. Did not make any sense to me. I was looking forward to the game thinking, right, okay, they're going to be tired. We're going to have the legs on them. We're going to do more running. We're going to be in their face. We're going to get the ball. We're going to be able to control the game. And we did do that to some extent, but we kind of like dropped off as soon as we made the substitutions. And now I've seen some comments about how Ruben Amorim is being blamed for the substitutions and United falling off, but he can't be blamed for putting on fresh legs, but the players are simply not good enough. We know that as well. We have to accept that. We accept Dalot is simply not good enough. Ugarte is useless. Who else did he bring on? I mean, he's brought on a few other players who are simply not doing the job for United right now. He's got no options. He's got no options off the bench. We need to give the manager the tools and the right tools to do the job. We can't complain he's not doing a good enough job if we're not giving him the right tools. And right now he's crying out. He's been saying it already. Start of the season he said, look, I needed a central midfield player and we failed to sign one. Not in those words, but if you read between the lines, if you watch his press conferences, post-match press conferences, he essentially is telling the press and telling the world, I wanted a midfield player and we failed to sign one. Yes, they tried to go after Baleba and it was too late though. It was too late in the transfer window, in my opinion. I think they left it too late. If they needed to go and get someone like that, they should have done it early on in the transfer window and allowed themselves time to go elsewhere and pivot and go and sign somebody else. This time they're doing that. What they're doing now is making sure they've got different options if one falls through, or two fall through, or three fall through. So they know, I think they already know that the most likely option out of the three that we were looking at, that's Carlos Baleba, Elliot Anderson, and Adam Wharton. The three options that we want. These are the three players that United have got on their wish list, at the top of their list. Now, out of these three, if I was a betting person, I would say Carlos Baleba is the most likely one to join from them three. And I'll give you my reasons. I did give my reasons in yesterday's show as well. And I said, well, look, Elliot Anderson is right now pivotal to Nottingham Forest, who are doing really well. He's probably their best player right now on the pitch. So they won't sell him. They will not sell him. They will not sell him in the January transfer window. They would be like, no, we want to see the season out. Nottingham Forest have got a chance to qualify for the Champions League and get in the European spot. So no way are they going to let him go. Absolutely the same applies to Adam Wharton. Crystal Palace are doing really well. But they didn't let Mark Gui go to Liverpool because they had issues with not having enough squad players. So they last minute put a stop to that deal. They were like, he was off to his medical. He was literally going to get in a car and drive up to Liverpool for his medical. And they were like, you're not going. Sorry, come back to the club. We need you. And that's it. It fell through because they couldn't bring in the players to replace him. So unless Crystal Palace can go out there in January transfer window and go and get a replacement for Adam Wharton, they're not going to sell him. So them two options are off the table for me. I personally think it's going to be very difficult to get them two deals done in the transfer window coming up. Baleba, on the other hand, he's not playing well for Brighton. He's actually not featured in some of the games. He's been coming on and off. They've been hoping that he comes to his best again and regains his form from last season, but he's simply not done that. He's not done that. If you're watching Brighton play, Baleba looks half the player that he was last season. So Brighton, I think, are the most likely to cash out on Baleba, knowing full well that, look, if we let this guy carry on playing this season, come the summer transfer window, his price could plummet from whatever we're talking right now, 18, 19 million, it could plummet even further. In fact, before the season started, we were talking about Baleba offering maybe 120 for him, and everyone was like, every United fan were like, yeah, pay 120, we'll pay him 120, let's bring him to United. And that was something that Brighton were looking at. There was talk of United making an offer in the region of about 110 to 120 million for Carlos Baleba. Now, them numbers are just crazy to think of, that we were going to pay that much money. Now, since the start of the season, his value has dropped. There is talk now that maybe a 90 million or near enough 90 million pound offer would tempt Brighton to sell him. So this, again, is a huge thing, right? Okay, if we can get Baleba, but I think realistically, Brighton will be looking at it and thinking, do we keep this guy here who's unhappy, clearly not wanting to be here, clearly wants to join Man United, because that's what we've heard from several sources, that Baleba has confirmed to Brighton that he wants to leave and he wants to join Man United. We've also had Liverpool try and jump in and make some inquiries with Baleba, maybe turn his head and tempt him to come to Liverpool, but we're hearing that United are in poor position when it comes to Carlos Baleba. That's because they've tapped him up, they've been talking to him, they've told his representatives and him that United will sign him. So he is fully now thinking of his future at United. In fact, he made a cryptic kind of post on social media before Brighton played United at Old Trafford a few weeks ago, and it was like, oh, I've arrived at Old Trafford, and he kind of put a smile there. The guy wants to play for United. He wants to join United. He's not happy at Brighton and wants to be at United. So I think the people at Brighton, they're going to have to make a call. Are they going to sell him in January, or are they going to hold on to him and him playing even more, playing worse than he already is, and come the summer transfer window and half the teams are not interested? Man United might not be interested. Man United might reach the summer transfer window and say, well, look, we've got better options now for lesser prices. Yeah, so a lesser valuation. We know Wharton and Anderson would be cheaper than Baleba right now under the valuation. I think Wharton's valued around about 60 to 70 million. Anderson probably in the same region. Joao Gomes, we're hearing, is probably valued around about 50 million. So if United bring Joao Gomes in the January transfer window, and he does really well for United. I don't think United will go in back for Carlos Baleba. I cannot see that happening. I do think that United will then probably go for somebody else like Anderson or Wharton, but they'll probably not go for Carlos Baleba. Carlos Baleba knows this is his one chance saloon. If he misses it, it's done. It is done. If he does not get signed in January transfer window, it is going to be the end of that saga. And I've spoke to quite a few fans, and we were very, very happy for him to be signed in the summer transfer window. But now, having looked at Blaber, we're all kind of a bit like, do we want this to go through? Maybe not. Do we want United to pay this much money? I don't think so. Hi, Jim. How you doing, mate? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. We're discussing the news this morning with Joao Gomes and the breaking news, Joao Gomes to United. What do you think of that? I mean, are you impressed with that kind of signing? Would you be happy with him to come to United, or do you feel United need to stick to their top targets and not, move and pivot somewhere else? I believe that we need to keep our options open. I don't want to get stung in the January window. I don't want to be there looking at signing all this hoo-ha about signing a top player and then we end up with nothing and a pie on our faces, right? We don't want that. And it's been clear. Ruben Amorim has made it clear to the board. He wants someone in the January transfer window. It's an absolute must. He's turned around and told them, look, I can't do what you're asking me to do if I don't have the right players in. And the board must be watching what we're all watching as fans. We're watching the same thing, which is United completely look like two different teams in the same match. The moment we make the substitutions, it looks like a completely different team. We completely lose control in the midfield, and it's shocking for me to say this because I'm not a huge fan of Casemiro, but he makes the difference for us right now. He looks like $1 million for us. Look, Casemiro, we know is doing a job in there, but if we can get another midfielder in there that's as good, if not better than Casemiro, imagine what could happen to this team. Imagine the transformation. We just need them players in. And then there's also now talk of bringing in a new striker. So transfer news alert, which is a new striker. Sesko could be out. We're not quite sure how long for. It could be a couple of weeks, or it could be a month, or even longer. And if that's the case, United will need to bring in reinforcements. There's even talk, shocking talk, about United recalling Rasmus Højlund. I don't think that's a good idea. I think, look, we need to move on from Rasmus Højlund. Rasmus Højlund he's had a brilliant start to Napoli, but I think even he's fallen off. He's had some criticism lately in the last couple of weeks about how he's not been able to control the ball well enough, and he's not composed and he's not holding the ball. But we all know this. He's had a great start, but we all know what Rasmus Højlund capabilities were. And he was just simply, unfortunately, look, I would have loved to see the kid do well, but unfortunately he didn't, and he couldn't cope with the Premier League. I think Sesko needs to be given the opportunity to prove himself. It's unfortunate that he's got injured. It's unfortunate that he kind of missed those chances on the weekend. But we all know it's a thin line between success and failure. I mean, if he put one of those or two of those chances away, everyone would be going, waxing lyrical about Sesko, saying, "Oh my God, he's brilliant, and what a striker we've got on our hands," and blah blah. And if he doesn't, the other side of the coin is that we start criticising these players. We start talking about how bad he is, how bad he's performing. But I still am positive about Sesko. I don't think we write him off. I still think he's shown enough. If Liverpool have just signed £120 million worth, right, from Leverkusen. Look what he's doing. Jack Hall. Everyone needs to focus on that rather than Sesko. Jim, you say we can't sign top players in January. We need to do a CDM and a striker. Yeah, exactly my point. Yeah, can't recall Rasmus. It's not in his contract. Yeah, I've heard that as well. Is it not on his part of his contract? Rasmus himself stipulated before he left that he doesn't want to come back to United. I mean, that might be shock some of you, but that's what he said. He said, I don't want to be a player that's loaned out and then I'm having to come back. He wanted to go and wanted to go forever to Napoli. And so it's now a choice of Napoli, whether they obviously, I think there's an obligation to buy for Napoli. So I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's happening. I think fans just get hysterical immediately and they start panicking about things. We need to calm down, number one. Yes, Sesko's injured. It's happened at the perfect time because there's an international break. So we don't have to panic. We don't have to start going, oh my God, we need a striker. Let's go out and get someone right now. We've got players that can step in. We started Kuna, Ahmad and Mbumo. So I think that could be our starting lineup coming back from international break if Sesko's not fit. But what I'm hearing is that it could be a recovery time between the international break, which would be ideal for everybody, which would be perfect for us. And I think he needs a bit of downtime, maybe get his head together and go again. And it gives Ruben Amorim some breathing space because we were the ones as fans. We were shouting out saying, "Look, Sesko has to start. Why are you not starting Sesko? Sesko needs to be playing." But Ruben Amorim, if you recall, didn't actually want to start him immediately. He said he needed time to adjust. But then, of course, the pressures from the outside start playing on the manager's head. Because if we're not winning any games and he's not playing Sesko, we and the media would get on the back of Amorim and say, "Well, why are you not playing Sesko? It's completely wrong. You need to be playing Sesko." That's what it is. We got an update yesterday, PI. We got an update yesterday for Sesko. So the scan was done, and of course the scan's not clear because there's a lot of swelling just immediately after the injury, but they're talking possibly, they're saying that there was no ligament damage. Hopefully, fingers crossed, because if there was a ligament, I think that would have been a long term out. There was talk about him in recovery time, coming back from the injury for within 2 to 3 weeks. But they said that the second scan is going to take place, I think, today on Monday morning, and more would be found out. So we're waiting to see. Maybe this afternoon we'll get some update. I don't think the club generally give an update like this unless there's a press conference of some kind with the manager. So we'll find out from Ruben Amorim maybe if there's a press conference, but I don't think there's one scheduled. But if there is, we'll find out. Like I said, international break. He was scheduled to join Slovenia and go off playing there, but more football would have done him good personally. But he's clearly going to be out for some time now. He's going to be out for some time, but hopefully not too long, because again, he does need football. He does need regular football, and he needs to play in games. I just feel like he needs to be brought on like a sub, like, every so often bring him on and but then that's very difficult as well, because you've got to remember, coming on as sub, you've got to be boom, hit the ground running immediately. So sometimes that could put even added pressure on a sub who's coming on, who's not familiar with the Premier League and is having to play and adapt immediately. It's a difficult one with Sesko, but I've got faith in him. And I think every United fan should also have faith in the new signings. Sometimes you can't all be Mbumo and Kuna. Yeah, even Kuna, I'd say he's had a somewhat start. I mean, a checkered start. It's not been all rosy for him either. Mbumo, of course, has just hit the ground running. He's come in and he looks like he's been playing for United for years. I mean, he's gelled with the players and he's got that link-up play with Ahmad. But we do need to look for other reinforcements. We need other players coming in. So Joao Gomes, for me, is a realistic target, a target that we can definitely go and get, and we need to look at these kind of players. We have to play Zertsky now. If he doesn't play with him, he's insane. Nish, thank you for joining. Sesko is so bad. Zertsky, look, Zertsky's a really interesting one, and I'll tell you why. Because I think he's out. I think he's going. I think he's gone in January. That's my personal opinion. I've not heard anything concrete, but from the noises I'm hearing, I think we're in danger of losing both Zertsky and Mainu in the January transfer window. I cannot see both of these players just simply allowing no game time, allowing themselves to be sat on the bench and not feature. The problem with Zertsky is that there's even been times when the game's been calling out for Zertsky to be coming on, but yet Ruben Amorim's not put him on. And that, for me, is a massive alarm bell. And we also got Ruben Amorim come out last week on Friday talking about how Kobbie Mainoo is really important for his squad. But then he doesn't bring him on in the game against Spurs. Again, you could argue he should have been brought on. Why not? You've got to take Ruben Amorim and his press conferences in a completely different light. He literally said the same thing about Rasmus Højlund 2 weeks before we sent him out on loan. He said Rasmus Højlund is important to the squad. He's an important player to us, and he will feature in my plans going forward. Boom, 2 weeks later, and he's gone. So look, he does what all managers do. I'm not blaming Ruben Amorim here. All managers will say, look, you know, this is it. This player's pivotal, but then he gets rid. PI says Sesko is not bad as Højlund. No, I don't think so. We've got to give him time. I look. Nish says Sesko is so bad. Yeah, look. Right now, if I'm judging Sesko from what he's played right now, if I was looking at him, I'd say, right, okay, he's not played well. He's not done well coming on. He's not done well when he started. He scored that one goal. It was a fortunate goal. I don't think it was a brilliant goal from him. It wasn't where he's kind of like took on a player or two and shot, and it was like a confidence building goal. It was a goal that he got. It was a tap-in essentially. And yeah, he wasn't going to miss that. But does it increase his confidence? Yeah, maybe slightly, but he's not kicked on from that, has he? He's not come in and taken over from that. For me, that's where I look at Sesko and think he needs to improve his game. Has he got the basics to do well? Yes, he has. Has he got the ability to go on and kick on and become a top player for United? Absolutely. But he's not had the best of starts. But I also have to kind of say, well, look, he's new to the Premier League. So I'm not going to judge him until he's had a good run of games. I'd still give him the rest of the season to then come at the end of the season, and then we make our decision on whether, look, is he good? Is he not good? Has he got a future at United or has he not? We all knew when we were signing Sesko that he was a young potential striker. We all knew that we're not signing a finished article. We can't sit here and argue over whether Sesko is good or not, because we all accept that when we signed him, we were all saying that he is a rough diamond coming into United and we will have to work on him. That's what I heard anyway. I knew when we were signing him, I knew, look, Benjamin Sesko isn't a player that's going to come in and start scoring goals left, right and centre. Hence why I was, pleading with United saying, yes, okay, you got the Benjamin Sesko deal done because it was just too much of a good opportunity to let go. He was obviously going to go to Newcastle if we didn't step in. So we thought, right, okay, we need to sign this guy. It could be another Haaland situation where we've got the opportunity. Do we take this player in the hope that he becomes a top player, or do we let him go to Newcastle and watch on him become a top player there? That's the problem. And then you know what the classic is, we're all going to cry about it as well. Oh, we had the chance of signing Haaland but we never did. We had the chance of signing Sesko but we never did, and now look at them, they're the top league's top players and the world's best strikers. So look, we can't complain. It's a catch-22 situation. We sign somebody who's got the potential and he might not reach that potential immediately, or we wait on and see what they like. So for me, I think we've got to give him time. Let's just pretend that he's just there, but we haven't got an out-and-out striker. That's why I said we need to go and get a Premier League proven striker or someone who can come in and score goals for us immediately. Mateta, for me, would have been that option. There was talk about who was it? Watkins. There was talk about Watkins as well, and I think United still should have gone and signed someone like that. They should have still gone and signed someone like Watkins, someone who could still play for United, someone who could possibly show Sesko how to play, and I think the pressure being off Sesko then would have allowed him to play better football. You can see what's happening with Sesko. He's coming in and he looks stressed. He looks stiff. He doesn't look like a guy who's relaxed and playing football the second chance against Spurs was a classic example of a striker who's not up to speed. You know, it wasn't about his finishing ability. It wasn't about him technically not being gifted enough. It was simply about not being up to speed. You saw he froze. He took too long to think about what he's going to do. It wasn't that he scuffed his shot or didn't bring the ball under control, or his first touch wasn't good. His first touch was brilliant. He brought it under control. It was a simple shot he needed to get off, but he took too long. He took too long. And in the Premier League, you've got world-class defenders like Van der Ven and others who will not give you that time on the ball. That's all it is. He'll get up to speed. Mark my words, I believe Sesko will be a top striker. Nish, I disagree with you, but you know, it's a game of opinions. I'm hoping that I'm right, but I might not be. But I believe that Sesko will be a top striker. It just needs time. PI says, our main problem is we're conceding too many goals. Spot on, PI. That's exactly what we said in our post-match review of the game against Spurs. It's all well and good. We're scoring decent amount of goals. We're actually up there in the Premier League for the highest amount of goals we're scoring. But we're also unfortunately up there when it comes to the amount of goals we're conceding. So what's a more simpler solution to what's happening right now? Do we say, right, okay, we need more goals? Or do we say, right, okay, let's shore up the defence? It's quite obvious to me that it's easier to deal with the conceding the goals rather than trying to get more goals in the team. I think we've got enough goals going forward in this team. It's just sorting out the defensive side of things. We need to sort out the defence, and we need to look at why we're conceding so many goals. What is it about the defence? Well, number one, I think De Ligt's our best centre-back, but then there's Maguire and Lenny Euro. I think both of them have got tendency to fall asleep in games, and there are problems with that centre-back pairing. Either one of those, they're not getting regular game time, number one. Number two is that clearly Ruben Amorim doesn't really have a favourite between them two. He doesn't know who to go with, whether it's Maguire or whether it's Lenny Euro. Hence why United tried, and there are reports that they've tried to hijack this deal with Mark Gui from Crystal Palace. They've inquired whether they could sign him. And we all know Liverpool, look at Liverpool leaking so many goals. That's the other problem. They're now whinging and crying about why they didn't get Mark Gui. All the talk about after yesterday's 3-0 beating that they got at the hands of City, they're talking about, it would have been completely different if we had Mark Gui in the team and he would be our centre back in there rather than Konate, which is crazy because Konate is a top centre back as well, but it's clearly not working for him. We need either to get our centre back sorted out, but I think we've got good enough centre backs. I just feel that we just need to shift up team. We also have got that big new signing coming in, which is Leacher. Leacher's coming back, guys. So once he comes back, I'm going to look at that defence in a different light, and I'm sure we all are. And we've got Leacher coming back, and him playing in that centre back position will be absolutely brilliant, because it will be like getting a new signing in the January transfer window. Although we're obviously going to get him back a lot earlier, fingers crossed, as long as he doesn't go and get himself injured out there with Argentina. He's going to come back. He's going to do wonders for this defence. We're leaking goals right now. He's going to shut that off. And I think it's going to have a better balance. So if Leacher comes back, we will have De Ligt, Leacher and Mazraoui playing in them positions. And Mazraoui, yeah. We could play him there, and then Shaw's going to go into the left wing back position. That's what I feel is going to happen. I automatically can see what Ruben Amorim's thinking right now. He's keeping Shaw in there, and he's already got him ready to go into that left wing back position. Dogu he's not confident with, and neither is he happy with Dalot. The only problem we've got is Ahmad on the other side. I just feel like Ahmad defensively is weak, and I just feel like we're wasting our top player. right back there doing all the hard work when he could be doing a lot more damage up forward. So Jim says, hoping the defence get better with Martinez back. Yeah, they will. Fingers crossed, Jim. I can't see it getting any worse. I mean, we've been glossing over the amount of goals we've been conceding, and the reason why we've been glossing over it is because we've been getting plenty of goals on the other side. We've been getting goals, but as Jose Mourinho said, look, to make sure you win a game, you simply do not concede any goals, and you're bound to get a goal going forward. So we need to start maybe taking a leaf out of that book. We need to start looking at this team and saying, right, okay, how do we make sure we win? We make sure by making sure we don't concede. And we're definitely going to get a goal. We've got goals in this team with Mbumo, Kuna, Ahmad and all the rest. They can chip in and they will get a goal. We just need to make sure that we're keeping clean sheets. And I think that's my main worry. I look at United right now and I think defensively we are leaking too many goals. And is it a coincidence that every time Casemiro goes off, we end up conceding goals? Or do you feel there is definitely something about having that defensive midfielder next to Bruno Fernandes? For me, I would love for the system to change up a little bit. And I know I've said this a couple of times. And for me, I'd like two out-and-out centre mids in this team. So Bruno Fernandes, for me, should be playing further up the pitch. For me, I would love to, in the January transfer window, go out there and sign, say, Elliot, Anderson and Wharton or something, right? Okay, them two would be my ideal first candidates to come in and we play them. Imagine a team with them two tanks in our team. I mean, it would be absolutely crazy. I mean, just the thought of it excites me. Just the thought of it makes me just start tingling. I start thinking, whoa, imagine that. It'd be like putting a bloody wall in the middle of the pitch. No one would get through them. And that's what we need to be doing. That's what we need to be difficult to be playing against. I think all the top teams, if you look back at historically the teams that have dominated for a long period of time in the Premier League and in Europe, when they've come from the Premier League, they've always had very good central midfield players, those that can close up everything, those that can progress the ball forward quickly as well, move with the ball forward and score a few goals as well. That's what we need. We need them players. Of course, that's in our dream world, right? Okay, in reality, that's probably not going to happen. United probably will not go out and sign both Wharton and Elliott, but they can go out and there and get one class midfielder. But the question is whether they're going to have the ability to do it in January. Like Jim said, it's not going to be possible in the January transfer window. It's going to be all you have to do is go back. Start looking back at all the January transfer windows and see what big signings happened in the January transfer window. There's very few big signings that happen in January. It just simply isn't possible to get all the work done, and big clubs don't want to sell. Of course, there's been some random players that have moved in January and become very good, but it's always a case of more the clubs wanting to let the players go rather than an offer being made and the club are reluctantly sell the player in January. Very, very unlikely. So that's why I think the Joao Gomes thing makes sense to me. We need to keep our options open. Guys, let me know what else you want me to discuss. Anything else, any questions you have, let me know, because I'm going to try and close off the show. Make sure, guys, you hit the like. There's double figures, guys. Double figures watching the show. Make sure you hit the like, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can keep on top of all the latest Manchester United news and more. We give you daily shows on everything concerning United, and of course we bring you all the latest breaking news as and when we get it. The breaking news today, of course, as you've clicked on the thumbnail, is that United are looking at Joao Gomes. He's now been added to the ever-growing shortlist for our midfield options. And I'm happy to hear this news. I'm happy because I want United to have options. I don't want them to simply sit there and on their hands and say, oh, we've got this deal done with Carlos Blaber and it'll get done. And that's it. If that happens, we're in deep shit. We're in trouble because we can't allow ourselves to have another transfer window where we simply huff and puff and try and make a signing, but at the end of it, we just simply say to Ruben Amorim, sorry, but you're going to have to make do with the players you've got. And that's simply not good enough if we want to compete in the Premier League and qualify for the Champions League. We've got an absolute perfect chance to qualify for the Champions League. Having looked at what's going on in and around the Premier League, having looked at our current form, having been unbeaten in 5 games, we are cooking. We are cooking. So we need to give Ruben Amorim further backing. Give him the players that he's asking for, or at least some of the players, so then we can actually go ahead and start competing against the teams that... Look, it's unfair to compete against the likes of Arsenal, Cities and Liverpools and Chelsea's without giving the guy the right tools, without giving him the right... the same, the like for like players. That's all we're asking for. All we're asking for is to give this guy the right tools to do the job, and then we can judge him. There's no point saying, oh, Ruben Amorim's doing shit and he's not doing well when we've not given him players. He's going to immediately turn around and say, well, look, I've not been given the players. I've asked for a midfielder. It's no secret that Ruben Amorim was saying, I want a midfielder. In fact, there's some talk, I don't know whether this is true, but there are rumours that Ruben Amorim wasn't in the camp of signing Sesko. He wasn't in that camp. There was rumours that Ruben Amorim was saying to the board, look, the priority is to go and get a midfielder. He was confident that he had enough goals in that team with Mbeumo and Kuna that he didn't need an out-and-out striker. And he was persuading the board to go and sign a midfielder instead. But the board went with Christopher Vivell, the recruitment manager, who said, look, this is too much of a good opportunity to let go, where Sesko's come on the market and we need to buy him before he leaves and goes to Newcastle, and then his price tag will be double what it is right now. And I think Ruben Amorim then succumbed to that and said, look, yeah, that's fine, let's go and get Sesko. And that's because I don't believe Sesko was on the shopping list. Let's put it that way. I don't believe at the start of the transfer window they had a shopping list and Sesko was on there. I believe that Kuna, of course, was already on the shopping list even before the season ended, and Mbeumo was on top of that shopping list. They were like, right, Mbeumo's our number 1 target. Then they had Delap as a cheap striker to come in. So that was the type of money they were looking to spend. And then Watkins started being mentioned as a possible replacement for Delap. There was nothing on the horizon for Sesko. Sesko came in last minute and he came in hot. So it was literally Newcastle are going to go after Sesko. Isaac is moving to Liverpool, and that was, started a merry-go-round. And the United board made that call to go after Sesko, knowing that, look, we need to get in there now, or we're going to lose out on a potential superstar striker in the future. That's why we went with a striker. It was all about getting a midfield player, but the moment we spent most of our money on Sesko, then it came to signing a midfielder. But I think United took the eye off the ball. It wasn't that they didn't have money. I also heard that United had enough money to go out and still sign Baleba. Even after signing Sesko, they still were prepared to pay. If Brighton came to the table and said, we want 100 million for Carlos Baleba, get the deal done, I believe that United would have put the money up and gone and got Baleba. That's what I've heard. So United would have got short-term loans or wherever they were going to get the money from. They would have got the money and got the deal done. There was no PSR problems. Of course, we heard that afterwards, didn't we? I mean, once the transfer window was closed and the season started, and we've heard, well, United haven't got any PSR problems. It was just made up. It was made up by Ineos just to throw people off. United are well in the green. They've made record revenues. They quite easily could have gone and signed 1 or 2 more players in the summer window. So it was never about having not enough money and about PSR. It was all about simply not being able to get the deals done. That's the problem. We've got issues with negotiating. and it's the players that we're looking at. It's the players that we're looking at. You're never going to walk in and sign top players because you're not going to be the only ones that are looking at these players. There's other clubs also looking at the likes of these players. They're also going to be they're going to have the money as well. It's going to be turned into a bidding war. And imagine if you're sat there with someone like Wharton and you know that there's about 5 different clubs, full of riches, all looking at this player. What do you think you're going to do? Do you think you're going to take the first offer that comes through the door? Of course you're not. You're going to wait. You're going to wait and see what everybody else offers, and then you're going to obviously go with the highest offer. And it would be ideal for the club like Crystal Palace to see that there's a bidding war that's kicked off between the clubs. And you've got someone like Real Madrid looking at Wharton. You've got the likes of Chelsea, Man City, all of them. They're all in it. They're all there looking at Wharton. They're all there looking at all these players because this is what clubs are doing nowadays. They are planning for the future. Every club knows, right, if you get in there early, you sign these players and they could turn into absolute giants in the future. So let's do that. They've all got scouting departments. They've all been looking at these players. I'm just hoping that United can convince one of these or 2 of these top midfield targets to join United. Without Champions League football, that could be difficult. However, if we are sat maybe in the Champions League spots by January or somewhere near the Champions League spots, anybody that's looking to join United and United are turning up saying, look, we want you and we've got Champions League football to offer you next year because we want to qualify for that. That player probably looking at the table thinking, yeah, I could join United, I could improve them slightly, and we could together qualify for the Champions League. That's what that player would be doing. So it's very important that we maintain our current form. It's very important that we still are there or thereabouts when it comes to the January transfer window in the table. Very, very important. Do not underestimate that current form that we're in right now. I would have ideally loved it to be the January transfer window, right? Because anyone joining United can see that United are going in the right direction. There's other clubs like Liverpool in complete turmoil. There's other clubs that are struggling. United would be ideal to join right now. Players are fickle. Players want to join successful teams. They want to join projects that are going in the right direction. They don't want to jump on a train wreck or the Titanic. They want to be going on a journey where they can see themselves being successful, getting all the glory, getting lots of money, and being part of a project that's going and going to succeed. So they'll need to see that. Ruben Amorim, of course, will have to convince them on the project. But if we're in the Champions League spots or thereabouts, it would make these signings a lot easier. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave the show there. I've gone over just about the hour mark, so I'm going to leave the show there. I want to thank you, everybody that's joined today, everyone that's commented. Thank you very much for joining in. Niche, Jim, PI, everybody else, and everyone who's watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, please, and don't forget to subscribe. That's it for today's show. Thank you very much. Hope you have a lovely day, and we'll bring further breaking news as and when we